Good evening, everyone. No intro today, out of respect for Charlie Kirk, who was just shot to death this afternoon at Utah Valley University. Man, what a hard day. Just another routine Wednesday. I finished up work around 5 o'clock and started doing the last round of research for the episode when the news of Charlie Kirk stopped me like a brick wall. I do have some stuff to cover, but I'll go over the prayers, the condolences, and messages for Charlie first, and maybe I'll get into everything else that I put together throughout the day today. But yeah, pretty tough, pretty hard. Out of nowhere, completely out of nowhere. I will warn you, there is a massive outflowing of prayers and praise for the life of Charlie Kirk on X. But mixed within is the video of the incident. And take it from me, you don't want to see it. I stumbled across it, and I won't forget the moment, nor that image for the rest of my life, probably. And it doesn't stoke any fear in me in any way, shape, or form, just anger. Too many who see it, they might not see anything but the red of rage. And in no way will this incident force conservatives into hiding. I don't know if that's what the shooter's intention was, but I honestly fear the opposite. The mainstream media, they've been jabbing at a sleeping giant for a long time now, a country whose Second Amendment rights outnumber human beings. And I don't know, man. I fear what things may lead to if they keep twisting this propaganda knife into the backs of Americans. I don't know where it's going to lead. This event, it could turn down an ugly path, and I pray it doesn't. Hey, look, I have kids, and I want nothing but a peaceful future ahead. And I just hope and pray for the future of our country, whether the future looks bleak or bright. And I mean, this country's all we've got, and virtually nobody, especially those on the left, have the faintest idea how hellish our future can really be if things take the worst turn. Like the old saying goes, the road to hell is always paved with good intentions. So anyway, so I'll just start here with Turning Point UK. Our founder, Charlie Kirk, has been shot. We are praying for him and his family. We are in shock. And this is from the White House just a couple hours ago. The great and even legendary Charlie Kirk is dead. No one understood or had the heart of the youth in the United States of America better than Charlie. He was loved and admired by all, especially me, and now he is no longer with us. Melania and my sympathies go out to his beautiful wife, Erica, and family. Charlie, we love you. President Donald J. Trump. And picture of him and Charlie together. Just unbelievable, man. Just so sudden. Look, man, Charlie just posted on X like 5 hours ago. I mean, no joke. Like 5 or 6 hours ago. I mean, he's active on here every day. I've been following him for a long time. And yeah, he actually has it pinned at the top of his profile, the event that he was at today. Because I'm assuming Turning Point USA, and that's the organization he founded. I'm assuming those guys were live streaming the event. So just absolutely shocking. So let's see. I'll read this first. I don't know if I have another version of this. It's kind of small. Let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger here. The great and even legendary Charlie Kirk is dead. Okay. So basically, it's just been reposted from here to there. So yeah. So I just read what President Trump said in his Truth Social. But this comes from the White House. He also posted this as well. We must all pray for Charlie Kirk, who has been shot. A great guy from top to bottom. God bless him. And from Marco Rubio, he's the Secretary of State, in case you didn't know. Heartbroken and outraged by the assassination of Charlie Kirk, which is exactly what it was. It was a political assassination through and through. There's not any doubt about that at all. He was an incredible husband and father and a great American. May he rest in eternal peace with our Lord. And from Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, or Secretary of War, I know it's going to take some getting used to. Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, prayers for Charlie Kirk, an incredible Christian, American, and human being. May the healing hand of Jesus Christ be upon him. And from Robert F. Kennedy Jr., once again, a bullet has silenced the most eloquent truth teller of an era. My dear friend Charlie Kirk was our country's relentless and courageous crusader for free speech. We pray for Erica and the children. Charlie is already in paradise with the angels. We ask his prayers for our country. Absolutely. And of course, Trump and RFK and Charlie. From Janine Pirro, may God bless and protect Charlie Kirk, who has so much more work to do. And Charlie is a hero to so many of us. Please pray for him. From JD Vance, Vice President, say a prayer for Charlie Kirk, a genuinely good guy and a young father. From Senator Rand Paul, Charlie Kirk was relentless in his pursuit of open debate, even with his fiercest critics. Gifted, fearless, and driven by a fierce love for his kids and country, he faced the risks ahead. He faced the risks head on because he believed in a better future. He sounded the alarm of rising political violence and a culture of assassination long before most dared to speak. His clarity was unmatched, and I'm utterly devastated and saddened. What a tragic day. Charlie Kirk was a friend to Kelly and I, and an amazing messenger for limited constitutional government and individual liberty. We will miss him. And from Rep. Jim Jordan, we're all praying for Charlie Kirk. God bless him. Speaker Mike Johnson, please join us in praying for our good friend Charlie Kirk. And also from Caroline Levitt, White House Press Secretary, please pray. And from Donald Trump Jr., Charlie Kirk is one of the finest humans I know. Everyone, please lift him and his family up in prayer. From Matt Gates, praying for Charlie Kirk with all I have. Jason Whitlock, pray, pray, pray. Charlie Kirk, we are praying for you. And Tim Sheehy, this is heartbreaking news. Charlie was a good man and a patriot who fought tirelessly to make our country better. The impact of his work on behalf of the conservative movement and to encourage young people to engage in our politics will be felt for generations to come. Please join our family in praying for his wife, his children, and all those he inspired across the nation and around the world. And image turning point action. Moving on to Congressman Cleo Fields. So these are, I felt it was appropriate to include some of the Democrat posts. Now, I only took the ones who were given the condolences. There are Democrats out there, believe it or not, even though you're totally going to believe it because it is absolutely the case. There are some who are trying to politicize this into their campaign slogans to try to stop gun violence and all that fucking shit. So there are some who are out there. I almost shared them, decided not to go with it because I got a handful of other Democrat ones. But I felt, you know, they got something to say. Charlie Kirk talked to all kinds of people. He talked to the left, maybe even arguably he might have even talked to the left probably more often than on the right, at least in the professional setting. So I just figured that I should at least mention a few of these that I came across. So about an hour ago, Congressman Cleo Fields, the tragic death of Charlie Kirk is a reminder of the painful moment our country is living through. No matter our political differences, violence is unacceptable and has no place at all in our democracy. Our thoughts and prayers are with Charlie Kirk's family, especially his wife and children, as they mourn this loss. Of course, Charlie would remind him that we don't live in a democracy. We live in a constitutional republic. But anyway, from Senator John Hickenlooper, political violence is never acceptable and has zero place in this country. Our thoughts are with Charlie Kirk's family. And I know a lot of people are going to be angered at the Democrats in general. Even more so, they should be especially angry at the mainstream media for just the constant lies and propaganda and just fanning the flames of violence through their words for, I don't even know anymore, like 10 years, maybe even longer than that at this point. I mean, who even knows? But that's not today. I mean, that's not the day to, I'm not, the only person I'm pointing a finger at is the person who shot Charlie Kirk. And as of this recording, he's still at large, whoever he is. I'm sure the entire weight of the federal government is descending on him right now. I'm sure the full force of the intelligence community, I mean, I can't imagine any resources not being absolutely turned directly at this person who shot Charlie Kirk. I mean, they may have already got him. I just hope they catch him before he offs himself, because I'm sure that's his plan. I would not be surprised, because that's usually how it ends up. So, but yeah, they didn't catch him in the moment. There was, and I don't know if I'm prepared to show it. I don't think I will, because it was debunked. There was some old guy who was supposedly at the event, some white-haired guy, and he was being dragged away by cops. It has since come out that that was not the shooter of Charlie Kirk, that it was debunked. He's still at large. They're still looking for him. So I'm sure the FBI have probably already swarmed the area. I'm sure they're already looking for him. And yeah, with the resources and the tools that the federal government has at its disposal, especially with this, I mean, this is Charlie Kirk here, man. It's Charlie Kirk. So everybody knows him. And look, just the number of posts that I've already read paints a pretty clear picture. And I haven't even shown you some of the other ones yet. You know, I'm just getting into it. So anyway, I'll keep on reading. So from Senator Chris Coons, my prayers are with Charlie's wife, Erica, and his two young children as they carry this grief and mourn this horrifying loss. I grew up during a time in our country when political violence became shockingly routine. America cannot backslide once again into that dark era. I could not agree more. From Barack Obama, we don't yet know what motivated the person who shot and killed Charlie Kirk. Dude, I think we've got a pretty clear idea. Yeah, we absolutely know. But this kind of despicable violence has no place in our democracy. We're in a constitutional republic, once again, as Charlie would probably say. Michelle and I will be praying for Charlie's family tonight, especially his wife, Erica, and their two young children. From Pete Buttigieg, horrific to hear that Charlie Kirk was shot today in Utah. Political violence must be always and totally rejected. Praying for him and all who may have been injured or impacted. From Gavin Newsom, the attack on Charlie Kirk is disgusting, vile, and reprehensible. In the United States of America, we must reject political violence in every turn, or every form, rather. You could go see these for yourself. I'm not going to click on any of these because I've already looked through some of them. The comments are about what you'd expect. Yeah, they're raging at these people for, you know, to put it lightly. It's pretty ugly down in those comments, man. Probably almost certainly too ugly for YouTube, probably. All right, from Tim Waltz, an open forum for political dialogue and disagreement was upended by a horrific act of targeted violence. In America, we don't settle our differences with violence or at gunpoint. I'm praying for Charlie, his family, and his young children. And from Graham Allen, everyone needs to pray for my friend Charlie Kirk right now. Lord, please be with Charlie. He did post a clip. I'm not going to play it, but it's on his profile if you want to check it out. Obviously, we're moving away from the Democrat politicians and we're moving into, you know, other individuals, not exactly politicians. Like DC Drano, for instance, very popular on X, conservative, of course. America will never be the same after what happened to Charlie Kirk today. I'm truly sickened after seeing the video. This shooter's historic act of evil will unleash historic consequences. And yeah, I was sickened too when I saw the video. Like I said, I'm not going to unsee it. It really pissed me off, to be honest. From Eric Trump, Charlie Kirk is a great friend and an amazing person. Laura, Luke, Carolina, and I will be praying for him, his wife Erica, and their two children. From Megan Kelly, pray for Charlie. God bless him and look over him. Pray hard. From Stephen Crowder, everyone be praying for Charlie Kirk, his family, and our country. From Scott Pressler, the persistence, please stop everything you're doing and say some prayers for Charlie Kirk. From Brett Cooper, praying for Charlie, this is horrifying. Ben Shapiro, pray for Charlie and all other innocents. You shared Daily Mail. From Russell Brand, Lord be with Charlie Kirk and his family. Candace Owens, everyone please stop what you are doing and pray for Charlie Kirk, please. From Tim Pool, oh my God, I'm praying for you, brother. Another reply to the Daily Mail. From Fox News, Secretary Pete Hegseth offers prayers for Charlie Kirk, an incredible Christian, American, and human being. From the Department of Homeland Security, a great American, and they shared an image of Charlie Kirk. I mean, this is the Department of Homeland Security, for crying out loud. So when I say that they've got the entire weight of the government coming down on whoever did this, yeah, you could rest assured that's happening. From, Yeah, I think that was it. Yeah, so this is the last one that I have from DHS, and yeah, so that's what I got. That is just a very small drop in a bucket. There's over at this point, I believe there's over 4 million posts with Charlie Kirk's name in it in just the last few hours. So I mean, I couldn't imagine what's going through like Ben Shapiro's mind, Scott Pressler, especially Steven Crowder, man. Like Steven Crowder, Charlie Kirk. I mean, their platforms when Steven Crowder would go out to college campuses, it's almost the same platform. You know, like the whole change my mind setting. That was Steven Crowder who started that, and what Charlie Kirk's been doing lately is basically the same thing. He didn't coin change my mind. Um, I'm trying to remember what his slogan was. Charlie Kirk's. It wasn't change my mind, but it was basically the same thing. Prove me wrong. Isn't that what it was? I think it was prove me wrong. And he would set up like a tent or like a temporary stage or something, and he would hold an event at college campuses, and he's been doing that for years. Steven Crowder, same thing. He's done that for years too. Although Steven Crowder didn't have those big events like what Charlie Kirk usually has. The same with Ben Shapiro and some others. Yeah, Steven Crowder, he usually, or it's been a while since I watched Steven Crowder, but he would set up a table and a tent. Of course, he had to get like permission from the university to do it, so there was already buzz on campus that he was going to show up. So there was always a decent crowd around Steven Crowder, but it wasn't some scheduled far ahead of time kind of thing like with Turning Point USA. And Steven Crowder, like for the most part, he did it for YouTube, you know, like for his YouTube channel. Now Rumble, obviously. So let me just take a look here. Let me just see what it's up to right now. So 2 million posts so far with regard to the news itself. As far as using Charlie Kirk, trending with America and May God, 3.5 million posts so far. And yeah, I mean this just it happened like what, like I'm trying to think of Utah time. Maybe like 1 o'clock, maybe somewhere between maybe noon and 1 o'clock in the afternoon was when it happened. But yeah, I'm not sure where the gunman was when it happened, but he was shot in the neck, and he probably lost consciousness. I mean, honestly, within maybe a second or two. I mean, it was a pretty nasty hit, and it was pretty horrifying, to be honest. Yeah, awful, terrible, awful. My prayers are definitely, absolutely, wholeheartedly with this family, and yeah, it's a pretty bad day, pretty sad day, terrible. Yeah, I don't really have much else. At least not in the way of posts regarding Charlie. I mean, all I can say is that I pray for Charlie Kirk, his wife, his children, his extended family, his close friends, his colleagues, and everyone who enjoyed everything Charlie offered to our society. And it's unbelievably heartbreaking. And I truly hope we heal through this and we press on stronger than ever. And yeah, man, rest in peace to Charlie. Godspeed. I just hope that things don't get out of hand. I know that's not what Charlie would have wanted. He wouldn't have wanted any kind of retaliation. That's not the mindset of modern conservatives anyway. I don't think that there's going to be anything like that. You know, just trying to imagine both sides, both political sides, that is. I'm trying to imagine like who would be Charlie Kirk's counterpart on the left. I'm sure there's somebody that would jump right out as soon, but I honestly at the moment I can't really. I know there's a bunch of YouTubers, but as far as somebody on the left who's touring college campuses, I mean, honestly, nothing really comes to mind, especially at the level of popularity that Charlie Kirk was. But I mean, if that were to happen, same thing that happened to Charlie Kirk, if that were to happen on the left, I mean, I think that conservatives would expect some form of retaliation almost certainly. But I don't believe that's something that's going to happen on the right. I don't think so. Yeah, political violence is very rare on the right. It has been for a long time. And yeah, I mean, we're going to mourn his loss, pick up the pieces, and hopefully nothing pops off. I just really hope that the guy, whoever it was, I just hope they catch him before he offs himself. That's all I'm saying. I really do. Because, yeah, because Charlie's family, they deserve that justice, and this dude deserves to pay for what he did. And we do deserve answers. He has a right to not talk. I mean, he can exercise his right to remain silent. That's if they still find him alive. But I think we all know why. I think he was just making too many waves, making way too much progress as far as the left is concerned, changing a lot of minds for the better. And I mean, Charlie Kirk didn't even graduate college. He didn't even go to college, but he went to universities and he spoke about not only the state of the country, but he encouraged young Americans to rethink the whole university thing, the whole college thing, because there's a lot of jobs out there that don't require a university education. And in fact, there's some, I don't have the names of them offhand, but there are some major companies, and I think some are even in the tech industry, who prefer not to hire anybody with a college degree just because of the state of the education system that professors are teaching people these days. The entitlement, the lack of responsibility, the lack of accountability. And not to mention, at least 75% of jobs available in the United States right now don't require a college degree. And if you remember Mike Rowe from Dirty Jobs, he preached that all the time, that the vast majority of jobs that are available in the United States, that they do not require a college degree. At the most, they might require a certificate or a trade school or a period of apprenticeship, something like that. But yeah, anyway, so I'm gonna go ahead and move on. I almost didn't do the episode. I almost scrapped the entire thing because frankly, I'm just not in the mood. I'm really not in the mood to put this thing together. But I want to keep the schedule. It's still a new channel. I just launched this channel like about a month, maybe a month and a half ago. So, and I know how I don't know if strict is the right word, but I know how the YouTube algorithm can be with, if you skip a day, how that could affect your channel in a pretty negative way if you post consistently on a daily basis like I do. So, yeah, with that, I suppose I'll just move on, carry on. And I've got some video clips to play from earlier today, just newsworthy. Most of this stuff happened before Charlie Kirk, with the exception of this, which I just happened across it when I was looking through. Let me show you. Oh yeah, here, hold on. Before I get started with that. So anyway, like I was going through, let's see. Not my bookmarks. I was going through my list. See, I'll show you. I'll give you a sneak peek. I didn't intend on showing this, but I'll show you a sneak peek as to how I get my information each day. So I got cabinet and top officials, 66 individual X profiles on that list. Congressional committees, I've got 70 different congressional committees that I've got listed in there. Congress members, 425. I know I got to beef up that number. I'm like 110 short. I'm trying to finish it up. Florida news, government. Florida news I rarely use. That's more just for personal. Government, 199 different entities, agencies, the bureaucracy and all that. And then USA News. That's the only other one that I use. The only time I use USA News is if it's a really slow day and there's nothing happening in government. Chances are I may end up having to tap into that tomorrow because I think there's going to be an even bigger outpouring of information regarding Charlie Kirk's death tomorrow. So there may not be a whole lot mentioned on X specifically. So I may end up having to tap into this USA News and try to pull up some articles relating to government affairs tomorrow, if anything is scheduled for tomorrow, which I'm sure there is. I mean, the government never stops. Even when the government shuts down, it doesn't stop, man. Like even during government shutdowns, I mean, X is just constantly flowing with government-related news and information. So, yeah. So anyway, I do want to share just this one thing. Let me go back to my history. And it's regarding Charlie. I did want to make a mention of this. If it decides to load, my X is being okay. So the shooter regarding Charlie Kirk, was the shooter caught yet? And the answer is no. The suspect in the Charlie Kirk shooting at Utah Valley University on September 10th has not been caught, according to multiple sources. Initial reports of a suspect in custody were incorrect, and the shooter remains at large. I I saw that video that they're talking about. I'm just not going to show it because there's no point, because that wasn't the shooter. It was just some old geezer who was in handcuffs, essentially being dragged away, and he was dragging his feet, so they picked up his feet and they just carried him off, and the video ended. I mean, it didn't show anything. It looked like the venue, that it was probably at the same place. So I don't know if why that dude was getting arrested, but turns out he wasn't the shooter. So I'll just, yeah, let me just do, because it could have, I asked this probably about, I don't know, maybe a half hour ago, maybe 45 minutes ago. So it's possible that they may have found him by now. Maybe not. Oh, here we go. See, look, they just updated this. A person of interest is in custody, but Utah authorities have not confirmed if the suspected shooter has been caught as of September 10th. Let me go to the web pages first. Let's see. So this is just going to be just overall news. I'm mostly interested to know. Oh, wait, here we go. Charlie Kirk shooting, person of interest in custody, from Newsweek. Updated at 2:42. No, this isn't going to be accurate. That's not accurate. But Grok did change its answer, as opposed to when I asked about a half hour ago. I don't know if maybe somebody posted the shooter's in custody. And I take what Jeremy in the quartering says with a giant grain of salt. I can't stand him, to be honest with you. He's a grifter. Sorry, Jeremy, you're a grifter. Let's see. Suspect is confirmed to be in custody. Authorities. Oh, wait, hold on. That's September 15th of last year. What the fuck, man? Grok, dude. Charlie Kirk shooter still at large. So that was 2 hours ago, 3 hours ago, 1 hour. Yeah, that dude that they dragged away, apparently he's been released. Yeah, see, none of this. I don't know. I don't know what the fuck Grok is even talking about. I'm going to go off on a limb and say no, he's still at large. This whole person of interest is probably referencing the dude that I was talking about. But anyway, so that's all I've got. I'm sure I'll update tomorrow on what's happened in the hours following, at least following this episode. They might catch somebody. Like I said, it's frankly, I'm very surprised they haven't caught him yet, because, yeah, everybody's going to be looking for this asshole, wherever the fuck he might be. And let's just hope that they do. Let's hope they find him. I don't know, man. And I can already hear the conspiratorial gears turning in a lot of people's heads already, with regard to the government, the CIA, the establishment it's in no way, shape, or form in control by the MAGA Republicans or the Trump supporters, America First. It's still very much heavily controlled by the Democrats and the elites, and that, I guess that's in part true. Well, it's actually basically true, because the bureaucracy, 90% of the bureaucracy in Washington D.C. who votes, they vote Democrat. So yeah, the rank and file members of our federal government are overwhelmingly Democrat. At least in Washington D.C. they are. So I can already hear those conspiratorial gears turning. So if they end up not catching them in the days following, I would almost make a Vegas bet that that's probably what we're going to be hearing. We're going to be hearing, inside job, federal government, all eyes are going to be looking that way. I mean, look what happened to President Trump. Now, I know Charlie Kirk is no Trump, not by any stretch. He wasn't even involved in like, he wasn't a politician per se. He was just involved in politics and the culture war, I don't even know if the term social justice warrior is appropriate. Probably not. I mean, those days are kind of over. That's a very 2010s statement, or buzzword, phrase, whatever you want to call it. So, okay. Well, I've been hanging on to this for long enough. So this was posted about 2 hours ago from Rep. Don Bacon. The House just overwhelmingly voted to continue providing military support to Ukraine by a 372 to 60 vote. So whoever your politician might be, there's a pretty decent chance, actually a probable chance, that your representative voted for sending money to Ukraine. I'm going to look it up. I'm not going to look it up right now, but I'll look it up. My rep in Congress is Anna Paulina Luna. I would be very surprised if she voted yes for that, to say the least. She sure as shit better not have. Yeah, so that just happened this afternoon. And yeah, I wasn't too happy about that. That's very irritating to hear, because I thought we were all on the same page as far as Republicans go, that we're done sending money. Well, I guess that military support, I mean, at the end of the day, it's all money. But I get it. So maybe this was this may have been pertaining to the military equipment that we're supposed to be selling to the EU, that the EU purchases from us, and then they give it to Ukraine. Apparently that's what's supposed to be going on. At least, I mean, I would understand better if that were the case. Oh, wow, look at that. I'm getting ratioed. I got 3 likes for it, but anyway, I said warmongers, then give me my tax money back. I'd rather give it to a homeless Democrat than to Ukraine. Uh-oh. Yeah, I don't know. That could go either way, to be honest, though, man, because it's Rep Don Bacon. He does have his fair share of left-wingers that are usually down in the comments. But obviously there's a lot of Republicans, too. So I'm not going to look up all that right now. I'll wait till later. Usually I don't bother. I mean, if I get ratio to that extent, I usually don't fuck with it, because it's probably just a bunch of lunacy. A lot of lunacy. But maybe not. Maybe they were agreeing with me, but I highly doubt it, because they would have just dropped a like instead. So anyway, moving on to Caroline Leavitt, Democrats in 2025. And this is in response to Rapid Response 47, Democrat at Rep. Wesley Bell Moe from Missouri, I'm assuming. If you want to create criminals, put them in jail. Hang on a second. I forgot I had a couple of video clips, and I'm not prepared. So yeah, this sounds good. I think it sounds good. Here, we'll give this a listen. It's only 8 seconds.
So if you want to create criminals, put them in jail, because that's what happens. They come out and they're more likely to reoffend.
Okay. And they come out there. Well, I mean, yeah, he is right. They are more likely to reoffend if they go to prison. And yeah, I mean, it's fairly common knowledge that a lot of people, when they get locked up, especially for years, yeah, they end up learning more shit when they're in prison, and then they get out, and now they've got a little bit more knowledge as to how to be a better criminal. What was that movie Blow with Johnny Depp? He said he went into prison with a bachelor's of marijuana and came out with a doctorate in cocaine. But yeah, I mean, I get what she's saying, though. If you want to create criminals, put them in jail. Yeah, but they belong in jail regardless. I mean, it sounds like the argument he might be making is to just cash bail. Let's just do the cash bail. If they commit a crime, let's not put them in jail, because then they're going to learn how to do more crime stuff while they're in jail. Well, dude, if that's the case, then you're making the argument for solitary confinement across the board. Put everybody in 24-hour solitary confinement. Problem solved. All right, let's move on to Janine Pirro. Yesterday in D.C., there were 133 arrests and 3 illegal firearms that were seized. There have now been 2,310 arrests and 225 illegal guns that were seized. And she looks extremely happy. Of course, this was before the tragedy today. Rest in peace, Charlie. You know what? Actually, yeah, I'll see if I can make it full screen. That last video was kind of loud, so I'm going to turn this down a little bit. All right,
Hi,
here we
everyone.
go.
It is Thursday, September 10th in the nation's capital, and I'm here to give you some stats from last night. 133 arrests last night in the district. 3 guns were taken off the street, bringing us to a total since the surge began of 2,310 arrests, along with 225 guns taken off the street. So as we continue with this surge, D.C. is becoming safer. People are more comfortable going out, going to restaurants. President Trump last night actually went out to dinner in
Really?
D.C.
I
And
didn't know that.
I think I and everyone else wants to find out what that restaurant is and go myself. But it's all good news today, and hopefully the good news will continue. So we keep up the fight here in D.C., and hopefully this is something that you realize is helping the country and cleaning up the nation's capital as well. And maybe you'll come to visit soon.
All right. Yeah, I actually wouldn't mind going. I enjoyed Washington, D.C. a lot when I went. I only went for 3 days back in, I think it was 2015. And I really wanted to see the Smithsonian Museum, but I was just there for a weekend. There was some like marathon event that my ex that she was involved with. But yeah, it was nice. Actually, I think it was called the Cherry Blossom Run, actually. Something having to do with cherry blossoms. DC was gorgeous in the spring, man. It was really nice. But yeah, I would be curious to know if, or like what Janine Pirro's take is on the DC judges right now, because all I hear is that they're activists, they're left wing, and I'd be curious to know because she's the district attorney for DC, or the federal attorney, or whatever they call. Yeah, Judge Janine, that's her personal profile. But anyway, so moving on to Senate Judiciary Republicans, 2 Democrat senators are blocking U.S. attorney nominees for all 50 states, even though supported by fellow Democrats. Chuck Schumer called these non-controversial law enforcement officials horrible and historically bad. The nominees' home state senators would beg to differ. And apparently, oh yeah, I remember browsing through this real quick. So they actually have a whole bunch of these. Senator Amy Klobuchar wants Daniel Rosen to serve Minnesotans as U.S. Attorney for Minnesota. Mark Warner and Senator Tim Kaine want Eric Siebert to serve Virginia, U.S. Attorney for Eastern District of Virginia. Stephen Daines, Tim Shealy, MT, Kurt Alme to serve Montana for U.S. Attorney of Montana. Senator John Hoeven and Senator Kevin Kramer want Nicholas Chase to serve North Dakota as U.S. Attorney for North Dakota. I'm assuming these. Okay, so no, not all of them. I mean, are these all? Okay, so here's another one. Senate Judiciary Republican. Senator Fisher wants Leslie Woods Murphy to serve Nebraskans as U.S. Attorney. Senator John Kennedy wants Kurt Wall to serve Louisianans as U.S. Attorney. Mike Crapo and Senator Risch. And yeah, it goes on and on. So who else do we have? Chuck Grassley, Joni Ernst, and Senator Rounds. And it looks like that's it. So at first glance, I was assuming that she was going to show a bunch of Democrat senators that were voicing their support for specific U.S. attorneys, but nope. Looks like they're all Republicans. All right. From Rep. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Democrat-run Washington, D.C. was drowning in violent crime until President Trump deployed the National Guard. Americans deserve safety in their capital, not excuses. Democrats defend murderers and criminals. I'll always defend the American people. Let's give this a watch.
You know, I want to talk about a story that I think is very relevant.
I think that's her over here.
Brendan O'Forey died after being shot on a Green Line Metro train in 2023. Only on 4, his mother tells what prosecutors told her about dropping charges against the 17-year-old's accused killer. This was a 17-year-old black teenager here in Washington that was murdered, and prosecutors dropped the charges against the man. They have photos of him, eyewitness accounts, and his murderer was never prosecuted, never went to jail. And I think that is the kind of judicial wrong that has not only happened here in Washington, D.C. to many innocent people and their family, but it's happening all over the country. And this is a very relevant conversation because when innocent people are being murdered, especially teenagers, and their murderers are having charges dropped, or they have judges that let them off on lenient crimes, or say they're a repeat offender that has been arrested, and arrested over and over and over again. And they keep getting released, and they keep getting released. And there's another victim and another victim and another victim. This should go beyond political boundaries. And I can't understand how this becomes a fight about my Democrat colleagues' Trump derangement syndrome and politicizing Washington, D.C. This should be...
Yeah, look, the events that happened, not just today with Charlie, but over the last week or so with the Ukrainian woman who was stabbed to death in Charlotte. Also the events that she's talking about. Even there was a school shooting that happened today. I think it was in the vicinity of Denver, Colorado. 4 or 5 students were shot, and the suspect, last I heard, critical condition, not dead. Could be different right now, but with all of these events that are happening, like the school shooting was obviously in a very blue city, Denver, Colorado, and the Charlotte, North Carolina, another blue city, and the tragedy with Charlie Kirk happening. I mean, like all these events that have happened in a short amount of time. Of course, Democrats are just going to, in lockstep, just keep saying we must stop gun violence, and they'll just kind of keep it at that. But on the mainstream media, they're going to do everything they can to not talk about it, although they're not going to be able to avoid Charlie Kirk. I don't think there's any possible way that the mainstream media at large is going to be able to avoid talking about him. I guess we'll just see. I don't watch the mainstream news. I probably should, but I don't. But yeah, I'd be curious to see how that's going to play out. But all of this is, I mean, if this isn't causing the tide to turn against Democrats in a large way, I don't even know what will. I know that there's always going to be a fairly sizable percentage of people who are going to vote blue no matter who, no matter what happens, especially a lot of the Ivy League university graduates and people who have just been glued to mainstream media for the last 30 years. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of people whose minds, they are, not only are they made up, but they're just completely lost in the brain dead matrix. However, with that said, there's a lot of independents. There's a lot of people who they'd rather just not have any part of it. And I just have a feeling that these events are going to cause, I think, a lot of people to either switch sides like altogether, or it's maybe even going to politically, I don't know, activate. That's not the right word, but people to pay attention to politics more closely. Maybe I'm wrong though, but I just have a feeling. I mean, that Democrats are absolutely looking very far from okay these days, to say the least.
About victims of crime. And this should be the fact that we should have a justice system that holds people accountable for the crimes they commit against innocent people. And right now we're seeing
got a hot
on
mic.
the news an innocent woman that came from Ukraine. This woman felt safer coming from a war in Ukraine. She thought she was coming to America to be safe, and she was murdered on a train in cold blood, murdered. And we're seeing crimes like this day after day, night.
And that dude was arrested 14 times in his criminal history. Not sure how many times he was arrested in just the last year. Probably more than once. And, yep, wasn't in prison. Now, when I was growing up, when I was a kid, teenager, even a young adult, I always thought that arrests, in a large part, especially with felonies, there was like a 3 strikes you're out kind of policy. If you get arrested for the 3rd time, especially if it's a felony, like you're going to prison for a really long time, like 10, 20 years. For him to get arrested 14 times is just, it's absolutely mind-boggling. And he's got to be one of God knows how many thousands, especially in blue cities. Oh, shit. I just clicked out of that, didn't I? Damn it. That's all right. I'll find the place. I'll figure out where we were.
You know, I want to, and over again, and
all right,
coming to America to be safe, and she was murdered on a train in cold blood, murdered. And we're seeing crimes like this day after day, night after night, and it goes on and on and on. And anybody wants to argue about the National Guard? What, you people want the National Guard coming in and handing out water bottles when there's some sort of natural disaster? Is that just what the National Guard is supposed to be for?
No.
Well, I'm going to tell you what's up. The National Guard
They guard.
is also here to protect and keep our streets and our country safe. They aren't meant to be sent over to foreign wars to go die
Absolutely.
in some.
Yep. And they're not foot soldiers of martial law either. That stupid propaganda that they're peddling, saying that, well, the National Guard, they're like Trump's Gestapo. They're gonna flood the cities and lock down all these cities and invoke military martial law with the Orange Man dictator. And I'm fucking sick of hearing that shit.
Foreign country. The National Guard should be used for Americans to be safe, businesses to be able to prosper, people to be able to walk with their families down the street. And I'm going to tell you something, people of Washington, D.C. in this room, Congress has jurisdiction over the District of Columbia. That's the reality. Democrats, you may not like that, but that is the reality. The bills that are being passed here and being in a public setting, being discussed and debated and being voted on are for your safety. Because what's happened, and
DC
you know
set
it
a great
because you
example,
live
too.
here, you are living in a
Crime's
city
down.
filled with crime. And we have witnessed it as members of Congress. We've lived in it. A Democrat congressman just a few years ago got carjacked. We've had interns murdered on Washington, D.C. streets.
Dude, even that lady, when Trump was having his cabinet meeting, there was a reporter who said that just a couple of years ago, she was held up at gunpoint. Dude tried to steal her phone and laptop, and she wouldn't let him take it, so he pistol whipped her. Then he pointed the gun at her before he, I guess, gave up and took off. And she talked about how traumatizing it was, and she doesn't walk anywhere, not even during the daytime, by herself. And she was just voicing her thanks to not just to President Trump, but to the cabinet as well, and sharing her story because she was pregnant now, and she's about to have their first child, and yeah, she just wanted to give her thanks to their efforts, the federal government's efforts to bring down crime in D.C. because she has to work there because she reports on political matters. I mean, she was in the cabinet meeting when they were live streaming it, televising it, when they were having that meeting for like 3 hours. What is that, about a week ago or so?
And you know it because in your communities, you know people and you witness it. There's drive-by shootings, there's drug deals, and the youths of this community are being done wrong. Absolutely being done wrong. And so I'm telling you right now, I can tell you I'm from Georgia. Yes, that is where I am from. However, I come to work in Washington, D.C., and I live here when I am here for work, and I happily go back home when I am not here for work.
I'm sure she loves it
But I
back
will
home.
tell you, there is a commitment by Republicans on this committee to stand up against crime and do what is right for the American people. And I 100%, and so do my colleagues, 100% support the use of the National Guard to clean up the crime and stop the criminals from murdering and raping and stealing and making cities unsafe. And that's the reality of where we are today. And so this debate can continue back and forth, but it is ridiculous. Fighting for criminals is a losing argument. Fighting against crime will win every single time on anybody that has common sense. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield.
Yeah, well, and Democrats, they're taking a lot of flack, that's for sure. And yes, to some extent, Republicans have politicized the crime in cities, and a lot of it has to do with just the fact that ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, want to go into these sanctuary cities and get the not only the illegal immigrants, but the criminal element of the illegal immigrants. That's what they're going after initially. And they're getting hard pushback from all these Democrat lawmakers and officials in these cities who say that they don't want them there. And then they start throwing out all this political rhetoric about, the military and martial law and all that shit. And I think it's a fantastic idea. Look, the federal government has to go in there and round up criminal illegals anyway. So they might as well kill two birds with one stone and try to crack down on crime just by the federal government's presence there. They're not going to be there permanently. I mean, frankly, the federal government is in every city permanently. I mean, they've got FBI field offices, the whole 9 yards. I'm sure, there's probably a dozen of different law enforcement agencies that are in every major city already. So, Yeah, I don't know, man. We'll just have to see where that goes. Sounds like they're already making waves in Chicago. I haven't really seen a whole lot so far this week. They just started their crackdown. I believe it was on Saturday. Immigration and Customs Enforcement in Chicago. So I'll try to see if I can come across anything tomorrow, because I'd be curious to know. I know that they're showing those stats on DC, like what Judge Janine Pirro was showing or explaining about over 2,000 arrests and hundreds of guns at this point. I don't know if they're going to start sharing those statistics. I'm assuming that they're going to, but I'm definitely going to be on the lookout for that, because I'd be curious to know if they're going to have a federal presence on the level that they have in DC. Although Chicago's a much bigger city, but like DC, the city itself is somewhere around like 700,000 people, whereas Chicago, it's a whole different animal. Way, way bigger. All right, so this is from The Blaze. Jasmine Crockett refers to a young girl who was brutally murdered by an illegal alien, a random dead person. So it looks like it's only going to be just her saying random dead person. So we'll just take a quick listen.
Stop just throwing a random dead person's name on something.
All right. That's all I found. I was hoping to get more context into that. Let me just, I really doubt that they're going to have the longer video in here, but I mean, I'd like to know. Yeah, I would have just liked to have seen a longer video clip of that. I looked for a hot second. I couldn't find it. I just figured that was worth sharing, even though we don't really have any context behind that. So anyway, I'll just move on. So USCBO. So the CBO is the Congressional Budget Office. And CBO projects that the U.S. population will increase from 350 million people in 2025 to 367 million people in 2055. It will be smaller and grow more slowly over the next 30 years on average than the agency previously projected it would. Well, yeah, I mean, we're already below replacement rate. If there's any growth that we're going to see over the next 30 years, it's going to be immigration for the most part. At least I would assume. Or maybe second generation immigrants. They may have a lot of kids, but most Americans, man, they're not really having kids. And there was a statistic the other day that there were Democrats who were asked and there were Republicans who were asked, young Americans, Gen Z especially. I believe that they were currently in college, and they asked, like, they were given like a top 10 list of life events, and they wanted them ordered in from most important to least important. And of course, the Democrats, they had having children not anywhere near the top of the list. For them, it was like career, I think it was. Even the Republicans, even the Republican women and men, they didn't even have children up there on the top of the list. Like not even in like the top 2 or 3. So, and our replacement rate, I know it's below 2. If I were to take a stab at it, I'd say probably 1.6, maybe 1.7, somewhere around there. I don't think that it's as bad as the EU or some countries within the EU, not the EU in general. But Italy is really bad. I think Italy's at like 1.4, maybe even 1.3. South Korea is really low. Japan's really low. Same with France, UK. I think France has dropped to 1.3. And these experts say that once the replacement rate drops below 1.3, then it's more or less a wrap, at least in the short term. Apparently, that's a runaway effect that you can't come back from, at least not in the short term. And by short term, I mean within the next several generations. So, but anyway, there's the outlook projected out to 2055. I want to say it was. So, and I'll link this. They've got a document here. The population increasing 350 in 2025, 350 million to 367 million in 2055. It'll be smaller and grow more slowly over the next 30 years, as the Post already said. And the Congressional Budget Office periodically updates its demographic outlook to reflect recent developments and changes in laws and policies. The agency last published its demographic projections in January of this year. Since then, CBO has incorporated new data and reduced its estimates of net immigration over the 2025 to 2033 period and fertility over the next 30-year period. Administrative actions taken since January 20th are the largest factor decrease in CBO's projections of the number of immigrants in the country. The 2025 Reconciliation Act also decreases that number, and then it goes on from there. So I'll link this in the description if you want to check that out. And let's see, we'll move on to the next one. To Secretary Kennedy, pharmaceutical ads hooked this country on prescription drugs. We will shut down that pipeline of deception and require drug companies to disclose all critical safety facts in their advertising. Only radical transparency will break the cycle of over-medicalization that drives America's chronic disease epidemic. Let's give this a watch here.
The president just signed an executive order that's an historic change in the way that pharmaceutical advertising is done on television. And the order basically reinstates or gives us now the opportunity to reinstate the 1997 rules. Prior to 1997, pharmaceutical advertisers were required to put all the side effects on their ads. Many of them didn't advertise because it lengthened because of what it did to the length of the advertising. And the removal of that requirement in 1997, FDA changed the rule to allow them to report the side effects on a website or on a telephone. And they only had to report a few of them on television. And that triggered a proliferation of these ads. There's only 2 countries in the world that allowed direct-to-consumer advertising by pharmaceutical companies on television. We're one of those countries. New Zealand is the other. It's had a disastrous impact on human health, on people's relationships with their doctors.
Oh, yeah.
And really on the entire gestalt where Americans are led to believe that there's a pill for every ill. And that you don't have to exercise, you don't have to pay attention to your diet. Whatever goes wrong with you, you can fix with a drug.
Oh, yeah. He couldn't be more right about that. They're definitely on overdrive as far as that goes, probably since before I was born. There's always pharmaceutical ads on TV. So I actually just looked this up. I actually never even looked it up before, but if you're not aware of the cause of Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s voice, the raspiness in his voice, he has spasmodic dysphonia, which is a rare and incurable neurological disorder that has affected him since 1996. He has sought various treatments, including Botox injections and a novel surgery, though the condition persists. Spasmodic dysphoria is a form of focal laryngeal dystonia, a movement disorder that causes involuntary spasms in the vocal cord muscles. Man, that sucks. Sounds like maybe genetic, maybe. But yeah, so in case you wondered, there you have it. All right, from Caroline Levitt, FDA sends warning letters and 100 cease and desist orders to drug makers. And I'm sure that's what RFK Jr. was in part speaking about. So we're going to take a look at this here from News Nation. Not sure if this video is pertaining to that or not. I know often on these news websites it's not. Usually it involves some other headline of the day. But it does say healthy discussion. Not sure if this is going to play, though. Yeah, it looks like it's in the video title. Uh-oh. Oh, no. You're not making me sign up, are you?
That's 4 minutes
All right,
long.
let's see about this.
Back prior to 1997,
You're going to let me full screen it?
advertising in magazines had page
I think
after
so.
page after
There we
side
go. Yeah,
effects
that's better.
reported. And so we don't know exactly what it will do.
All right, we did see
Children
that.
Healthy prescription about a brand new
All right, there we go.
Health and
They
Human
want to hear it
Services
all over
Secretary
again.
RFK Jr. on Fox this evening talking about a brand new memorandum regulating how pharmaceutical companies advertise prescription
Let's crank this up a little bit.
This is part of RFK's 19-page MAHA strategy report aimed at making America's children healthy
better.
again. It essentially puts into words strategies and theories RFK Jr. has been promoting for years. With us now, Commissioner of the FDA, Dr. Marty Makary.
Good to be with you, Lee.
Pleasure, sir. Go back to
Oh, man,
1997. What does that mean?
Good
Yeah,
grief.
remember the days when pharmaceutical ads were rare. One of the reasons was that because of the regulation that they have to present a fair balance of the pros and cons, they had to have a lot of information about the side effects. Well, in 1997, there was a loophole created with a reg that said they can put the side effect information somewhere else. They don't have to disclose it. Ads started becoming more common. You got more and more expensive drugs. Drug companies went hard. And now you've got some TV shows where, quite honestly, it's a nonstop running drug ad with.
Okay, we're not going to knock drug advertising here. It is an important part of the industry, I might say.
Yeah, it's part of free speech, and they're entitled to advertise. We have regulations at the FDA that say they cannot create a misleading impression, and they have to provide a fair balance. And we're going to say now the side effects have to go in the ad. They can't put it somewhere else. No one's enforced these regs. These regs have increasingly had enforcement that's been lax over the years, to the point where in the last administration, in 2023, there was only one enforcement letter sent by the FDA, and last year it was 0. Today, I sent out 108 enforcement letters, which were cease and desist letters to the companies, and we sent out. So
what are you saying in these letters? That your advertising is misleading? It's wrong? What is it?
That's right. It's violating our regulations. It's creating a misleading or false impression. It's not listing the side effects appropriately. I mean, you're watching people singing and dancing, and then you think, wait, did I just hear sudden death? I mean, they're not presenting.
As long as they say it, it's okay, right?
Well, they have to give a fair picture of the medication.
Dude, we all know what he's talking about. The FDA guy, or Macri, is that his name? Dr. Macri? Yeah, like all of them are uplifting types of commercials. The glass is always half full. They're always smiling, and it's always like a nice, bright, sunny day. And then, yeah, like he's talking, like side effects may include this, that, and that. And then they go on for like 2 straight minutes. Sudden death is like buried in the middle somewhere. It's absolutely crazy,
medication.
Man.
We've got online pharmacies
Talk to your doctors.
that don't mention
for
any side effects whatsoever. We've got paid social media influencers that are paid by the pharmaceutical companies, essentially advertising a drug. Studies show side effects are mentioned less than 1/3 of the time.
New York Times, Kennedy...
Well, and like, I seriously doubt that he's advocating for them to start pulling drugs off the shelves. I think it's mostly just, there's an element of subliminal messaging, perhaps. I don't know if I'd use the word propaganda. That might be a little bit of a harsh word to say. But in some cases, it very well could be. I mean, back in the late 90s, I think it was, early 2000s, when OxyContin was being marketed as a non-addictive alternative to opiates or some shit, and it turned out to be completely the opposite. Everybody got their asses sued off for that. And I mean, like a lot of these drug commercials, there's probably a lot fewer people out in the public in the real world that drug would be optimal for than they're making it appear to be. So, I mean, look, I'm all about them regulating the pharmaceutical companies with regard to their advertising.
Releases childhood health report. It's vague on next steps. For all Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy's high-profile moves over the last few weeks, a new report from the Make America Healthy Again Commission he leads, released Tuesday, arrived with little fanfare or teeth. Sending a social media influencer a letter is a little bit different than sending somebody who's advertising on Monday Night Football, right? Is this actually, what has changed in America over the past 6 months that make us healthier?
Well, it's funny you mentioned football. There was one analysis that showed you're watching more pharmaceutical ads than you are football plays when you watch a football game in some instances.
No way.
We're not sending the letter to the influencer. We're sending the letter to the pharmaceutical company because we have regulations. They haven't been enforced. And this is something that almost every doctor is united around. We as physicians don't like the nonstop barrage of ads that create a false, misleading impression. They're increasing demand for medications in a culture where we've got a pill-popping society mindset.
Oh, big time.
My mother would call it better living through pharmacology.
Well, the thing is, there's no sense of what the appropriateness of these medications. I mean, sometimes you watch them in these ads, and you don't even know exactly what it's for, but you kind of want
that. You're going to get longer eyelashes, and then halfway down it says, and you might die.
Something positive. You think, I'll give up. I'll take it.
Right. Okay. So this is an important question, though. I think the New York Times makes a point here. 6 months into the Trump administration, how is America healthier?
Gosh, we have done so much in 6 months. And I didn't read that article, but there is so much spin.
Yet, but by
if we
2027 it should be.
approved the cure for cancer at the FDA, you'd find some negative spin given how polarized the media is today.
Probably.
We have done a tremendous amount in 6 months. I've been at the FDA for 5 months. We have removed petroleum-based dyes from the U.S. food supply. We've got an
Well,
inventory
hold
of all
on. Are they
chemicals.
actually gone,
We've
or
got
they're on their way?
We've got
Commitments.
Commitments, so they're not
commitments
gone.
that we follow on our website. We are rewriting
2027,
the
if
food
I'm not
pyramid, a
mistaken.
piece of misinformation that wouldn't allow some schools to have whole milk. We are ending the 50-year war on saturated fat. We are doing an inventory of every chemical. We're removing the GRAS standard, and we've initiated that regulation change. So you can't just put whatever chemical in your food you want
food pyramid?
as a food maker.
Isn't that all jacked
we
up
are
too?
having a new process to make drug approvals more streamlined and modernized because we want to deliver more cures and meaningful treatments to the American public. And we have called out vape stores and what's in those stores. It's been a very busy 5 months.
So you're saying that there are marked ways that American lives are healthier.
We're taking steps to change the
hit the
entire
gym.
conversation.
Don't hit
that
the pharmacy,
Maha
hit the
report today,
gym.
which I would encourage everybody to read at the White House website, has 128 specific things that we want to put front and center in American healthcare because we've never really been talking about them in traditional medicine. The microbiome, food as medicine, micronutrients, the importance of soil and where you get your food, microplastics, natural light exposure in children. These are things that affect mood. Screen time affects the amount of ADHD meds that are prescribed. We have got to look at patients holistically, and we've got to talk about root causes. You're seeing a whole new slew of research grants come out of the NIH to talk about root causes for the first time. It's an exciting time. We're resetting that national health agenda. The Maha report explains exactly how, and we've been very busy at the FDA.
All right.
Good to see
there
you.
you have it.
Thank you.
So I don't have to go through the article because I'm sure that it detailed everything that the article was covering. But I'll link it if you want to check it out. But yeah, one of the beefs that I have with the medical industry today. So this was actually quite a while ago, like probably 15 years ago or so. I had a kidney stone, and long story short, I ended up having what they call a shockwave lithotripsy. It was a non-invasive procedure where they blast your kidney with like high intense like sound waves or shock waves or whatever they call it. Or shock waves. Yeah, shockwave lithotripsy. And so they had to put a stent in, and so I mean it was somewhat invasive, but they didn't it didn't have to be put under the knife or anything like that. It was an outpatient thing. So I had the stone, then I had that done like 2 weeks later because I had a whole bunch of stones in my kidney. So anyway, after about a year, maybe a year and a half went by, I was still seeing a urologist. I think it was every 3 months at least. I was like, dude, you pulverized all the stones out of my kidney. Why the fuck am I still going here? Like, what's the point? So I just stopped going, and okay, all good. Now I've had other situations after that it's boring and pointless to get into, like kidney stone related, but I think that's probably the case with a lot of people. Like they'll have something happen to them and they'll get fixed up. But the specialist just won't let them go. They just keep scheduling them for the next one. Like, see you next month. And then eventually they'll stretch it out to like 3 months, maybe eventually 6 months. But it's almost like once they get a hold of you, whatever specialist it might be, they just don't let you go. And they don't want to let you go because you're a cash cow to them. So not sure if that's exactly what they're going to be aiming for. But yeah, we definitely live in a heavily medicated society, and it'd be nice to try to incentivize just good old-fashioned diet and exercise as opposed to there's a pill for that, there's a pill for this, pill for that, pill for that. All right, so Congressman Byron Donalds, let me size this up. Oh, okay, yeah, I was already up to size, just double checking. If you're 18 to 24 years old, you are an adult. If you commit crimes as an adult, you should be treated as an adult. This is common sense. But in DC, 18 to 24-year-old criminals can be sentenced as juveniles. My bill, HR 4922, changes this and will pass GOP oversight today to help make DC safe again. If you're following Politics Daily, then you know this because they were sounding the alarm on this back when they first did the federal takeover in DC back in early August. That was mentioned many times, that a criminal can be up to 24 years old and still be charged as a juvenile. And it's absolutely insane. I still think what they should be doing, not just in DC, but in all major cities, or maybe in all cities in general. Like when I was a kid, they had curfew. If you're a juvenile and you're out after 11 o'clock, you get picked up by the cops. They take you back home, and In some cases, if you're a repeat, they might take you down to juvenile. And what they really should be doing, if any adolescents are out past curfew and they commit a crime, the parents should be charged with the equivalency of that crime because they're a juvenile and they're supposed to be under the care of their parent, and they're not. So I think that would probably deter a lot of parents from just looking the other way and letting their kid kind of run wild. So I don't know, man. What do I know? I guess I'll play this. We'll just see.
That's what the chain of command is now?
Holy smokes, that was loud. Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
Historic action to rescue our nation's capital from crime, bloodshed, bedlam, and squalor, and worse. This is Liberation Day in D.C., and we're going to take our capital back. We're taking it back.
The past 20 or 30 years, D.C. has averaged a murder every other day. Every other day, a person has been killed on the streets of Washington, D.C. We've been doing this for 2 weeks. 0 people killed. That's real lives saved.
Byron Donalds presented this bill.
It's a bill that would make changes to D.C.'s youth offender system.
And lowering the city's definition of a youth from 24 to under 18.
We have youth Senate leadership, and hopefully we'll be able to pass that bill into law.
These are not political talking points. This is real life. The President of the United States and Congress have a responsibility to make sure that the nation's capital is safe. And if the local government is not going to do that, then the federal government has a responsibility to step in.
Good grief, man. Mr. Byron Donalds, I got a bone to pick with you, dude. You just blew the hell out of my eardrums, and whoever else might be listening to this, I am sorry for that. I had the volume turned down to it was at like negative 17 decibels, and it just like absolutely went insane. Dude, volume, man. Check your volume, dude. Yikes. All right. Caroline Leavitt, President Trump has crushed Biden's inflation crisis. I don't know if I go as far as to say crushed. I think they not only did they flatten it, they've rolled it back slightly. So here's what you need to know. Let me make this a little bit bigger so those on smartphones watching might be able to get a better view of this. So the producer price index, which serves as a bellwether for prices consumers may see in the months ahead, came in at 2.6% year over year in August, far below economists' expectations of 3.3%. Wholesale prices declined in August from the month prior, also defying economists' expectations. Prices for energy goods, trade services, and final demand services all fell in August. President Trump was right again. Companies refrained from outsized price increases last month despite tariffs. This comes as small business optimism is on the rise, increasing in August to its highest level since January and above its historical average. So let's see. From CNBC, boy, I'm surprised real progress here. 2.6% on the year-over-year headline. We're expecting 3.3%. Allianz, I'm not familiar with that. Chief Economic Advisor Mohammed El Arian. What we're learning is that the final impact on the consumer is much less than people expected. If the Fed is truly data dependent, the question should be, why not 50 basis points? And then Bullseye Investment Group, this is fantastic news. Producer prices much lower than we thought, so on and so forth. So Fox Business, CNBC, and on and on. But that'll be linked if you want to check that out in the description from, what was that, whitehouse.gov, right? Yeah, whitehouse.gov. And from VP JD Vance, VP Vance on violent crime. Most of the violent crime in our cities is committed by a very small fraction of 1% of the population. If we just throw those people in jail and kept them in prison, we can make America's cities safe for everybody, black, white, rich, or poor. And another statistic that I've read somewhere, that less than 1% of lawful gun owners who possess guns, obviously, will ever fire a single shot at another human being, whether if it's an offense or in defense. So the whole like gun crime thing, yeah, it's a little bit overblown. Not to say it doesn't exist. It obviously exists. I just think that an armed society is a polite society. If everybody carried guns, or at least like 90% of the population, like full on Old West days, it would be a very polite society indeed. Anyway, we'll check this out here.
What's your message tonight, Mr. Vice President, to Americans living in crime-ridden cities like Detroit, Milwaukee, Chicago, especially those in California? What hope can the administration provide them?
Yeah, the ones with strict gun laws.
My message to the American
I don't think
people
Michigan's
is we
are
don't
that
have
bad.
to live like this. I think all of us, if we live near a city or we've just gone downtown to take our family out for a meal on a Friday night, we've all had this experience where you pass somebody on the street who's obviously crazy, who's screaming and yelling at your kids. You cross to the other side of the street to avoid that person. Or maybe, God forbid, you've even been mugged at gunpoint. You've had your car jacked. You know a friend or somebody who's been victim of a violent crime. This happens, Matt, way too much in the United States of America. And the reason it happens is because of weak leadership, because we've allowed the criminals to take over the streets that ought by right belong to the American people. And so long as we have common sense law enforcement, this is not even that difficult, Matt. If you look statistically, most of the violent crime in our cities is committed by a very small fraction of 1% of the population. If we just throw those people in jail and kept them in prison, we could make America's cities safe for everybody, black, white, rich or poor, and that's what we're trying to do. The most important thing that we've seen in Washington, D.C., Matt, is the evidence that the American people don't have to live like this, that if you just do some common sense law enforcement, you can give the American people back their streets. I would love if we did this in every big American city, because I think that American citizens deserve to live safely in these big cities. They don't right now, but it doesn't have to be like this. We just have to change the leadership.
Well, and that was my big fear with regard to judges, that judges have become more political, probably more political than ever. And the whole point that judges wear black robes is to symbolize their lack of a political bias or any kind of bias for that matter. And not really sure. Look, a lot of the judges, at least here in Florida, we vote for them. I'm assuming that's the case all over the criminal judges and all that. So that's a big problem in big cities. These judges just keep letting people out for crimes that they should be thrown in jail over. I don't know, man. But yeah, good old-fashioned law enforcement's definitely a good deterrent for crime. And I mean, you could take that in any direction. Stop and frisk. I don't know if that would be something that would be a good thing to re-implement like they did back in, was that like in the 90s or the 2000s in New York City? Anyway, from DOW, Rapid Response. Question, we are here on a destroyer in the middle of the Caribbean. What is your mission? And it's an interview with the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth. Let's take a quick look at this.
Right here on a destroyer in the middle of the Caribbean, your boss, President Trump, has declared war on the cartels. What is the mission? What's your mission?
About fucking time.
Protect the homeland, protect the American people. Core national interests, the safety of the American people. Stop the killing, stop the poisoning of the American people. It's as simple as that. I mean, how long have drug cartels waged war on our communities, on our families, on our young people, on our streets? Violent cartels that made their way easily across the southern border under Joe Biden and his disastrous policy. So President Trump's locking the border down. He's done that, and we're going to continue to do that. And now we go on offense to make sure these cartels can't be funded, that they can't sustain what they're doing. And it doesn't mean we're fighting every cartel everywhere endlessly. That's not what we're doing. We're not trading one endless fight for another endless fight. It's the precise application of American power to send very clear signals that narco-terrorism will not be tolerated in our hemisphere. And if you want to traffic drugs that are headed for the United States, we're not doing it with kid gloves anymore.
Well, good. That's exactly the way that it should have been for decades. And that's what our federal government led us to believe, that entities like the DEA have been doing all along. But nevertheless, shitloads of drugs kept getting in from our southern border, probably from Canada too, from the air and all that. And I mean, dude, they are cracking the hell down. I just mentioned this yesterday. I could do an entire episode, probably at least maybe half an hour to an hour long, all by itself, only showcasing the daily drug busts that the government is posting about on a daily basis. 100 kilos here, 1,000 kilos there, just constantly. I'd say I probably come across maybe 20, 30 posts a day from not only from the federal government, but also from like Homeland Security, for instance, or like an entity like the DEA or the FBI. They'll repost local offices and drug busts that they had come across, and it's all day long, dude. They're busting, they're catching so much shit these days, and as far as drugs go, it's a lot, man. Operation Midway Blitz from Homeland Security will flood the zone with DHS law enforcement in Chicago. President Trump and Secretary Noem will not allow foreign terrorist enemies to operate in our country and endanger Americans. They will always put the safety of the American people first.
Today we're going after a very violent TDA gang member.
Tonight, exclusive evidence that
Trendayaragua.
Chicago's Operation Midway Blitz has begun. ABC News was given access to one of the first operations, ATF and ICE working together. You see dozens of heavily armed agents meeting at an undisclosed location to track suspected members of Trendayaragua's gang, accused of selling guns.
A lot of these firearms came back to very violent shootings in Chicago, homicides, carjackings, aggravated batteries.
We suit up and head out with Marcos Charles of ICE's Enforcement Removal Unit. Agents conduct surveillance of a suspected gun trafficking location, and after about 90 minutes, ATF targets a vehicle that flees, arresting 2 men they believe are suspected gang members. Minutes later, we arrive at another location. There's been another arrest. Federal agents removing a baby girl from the home. ICE says the 3 men in handcuffs and shackles have been identified as undocumented and are being investigated for ties to the Trendayaragua gang and for potential gun trafficking.
Good. Get them all. Round them all up. As many as you possibly can. They're hard at work. I'm sure they're working 24 hours, 24/7. All right, from RNC Research, wholesale inflation lower than expected for August. So I already did cover this, but anyway, boy, I'm surprised. Real progress here, 2.6% on year-over-year headline. We are expecting 3.3%. So I already got the gist of it, so I don't really see a need to have to play this segment. I will repost it if you're curious. I'll repost it in my profile. It's at Spaethon, Spaethon. There's an N at the end. And I've got a direct link to my X profile if you want to check it out in the description. Or you can just go straight to RNC Research if you find yourself on X. And this is from GOP. RNC Senior Advisor Danielle Alvarez slams Roy Cooper. 18 days for failed Governor Roy Cooper to make a comment about Irana Zarutska. And by the way, it was embarrassing. He did not take accountability or responsibility for his soft on crime policies.
The mainstream media took them 17 days before they paid attention to this story. Just about 30 seconds left, Danielle. Just want to get your take on what we've seen play out in North Carolina and this absolute tragedy.
17 days for the media to pay attention, 18 days for failed Governor Roy Cooper to make a comment about this. And by the way, it was embarrassing. He did not take accountability or responsibility for his soft on crime policies. It is why Donald Trump put out onto social wholly endorsing Michael Whatley for that U.S. Senate seat. This happened as a result of National Democrats and Roy Cooper's soft on crime policies. He should be ashamed. It is horrific what happened to this young woman.
Yeah.
Yep. And speaking of which, let me show you something. I forgot about this. So I posted this. It was actually a comment with regarding, you know what? Actually, I think it might actually be at the bottom of my list of bookmarks, but here, I'll show it here. Let's see, moving down. All right, where are we? Okay, here it is. So this is from Roy Cooper. And this was yesterday. So the murder of Irania Zarutska is a horrible tragedy, and we must do everything we can to keep people safe. Only a cynical DC insider would think it's acceptable to use her death for political points, especially one who supported cutting funding to law enforcement in DC. Then he goes on, check this out. I've been attorney general and governor, dedicating my career to putting violent criminals behind bars and keeping them there. It's time Michael Whatley and the GOP get serious in Washington about funding our law enforcement, and that's what I'll do as senator. So he's just this last part, he's turning this into a political campaign slogan, essentially. And what's this shit about Washington and funding law enforcement? I mean, that's up to the states. So I don't know if I replied. Yeah, so here it is. It isn't the federal government's responsibility to fund your state's law enforcement. That's the responsibility of the the city of Charlotte and the state of North Carolina. And you were AG when this man was arrested and released 14 times. Un-effing believable. So I made a mention of that, commenting to him, and then I followed that up with Roy is running for Senate in North Carolina as a Democrat, and he's standing on the grave of Irania, blaming Republicans for lack of police funding. Go ahead, see for yourself. His subpost, as if we forgot Democrats fully support defund the police. North Carolina, don't forget when you vote. So there's that. And I just figured I would make that apparent since we were already on the topic of that. And I did notice that it had the blue bookmark on it, so it's going to be down here at some point. I just figured I might as well bring it up now because I didn't order this properly with the news of Charlie Kirk. I didn't even, because I didn't even really plan on, like, when that happened, wasn't even sure if I was even going to end up doing this or not, this episode tonight. But usually I try to organize it before I get started to try to group similar topics as close together as possible. So yeah, so there you have it. From Attorney General Pamela Bondi, yesterday in our nation's capital, 133 additional arrests were made and 3 more illegal firearms seized. Over the past month, at the direction of the president, our law enforcement partners have worked nonstop to make D.C. safe again. They're already up to 2,310 arrests, 225 illegal guns seized. This time last week, it was somewhere around like 1,700, maybe 1,800. So they're still, that number is going up pretty high daily. And from Dr. Roger Marshall, healthcare isn't a fast food restaurant where you pick what to eat based on the best looking advertisement. I'm grateful to President real Donald Trump for pushing Big Pharma to disclose more of the side effects patients might experience when taking their drugs. As I just stated a minute ago, I would have grouped this together with the one that we previously saw, but that didn't happen today. So rapid response, Dr. Macri, FDA calls POTUS executive order on prescription drug advertising the most significant reform on pharmaceutical ads to date. It will address in part these issues of an over-medicated pill-popping culture and high drug spend in the United States. I mean, I guess I'll play it. I have a feeling anybody watching it might want to see it, so
well,
I'm just going to give it a go.
I want to see American pharmaceutical companies thrive and pharmaceutical companies that do business in the United States thrive. But this is a massive piece of healthcare spend in our U.S. healthcare system that could be better used in other ways. And when we talk about drug prices, a study out of the Journal of Public Economics found that 31% of the increase in drug spend since 1997 is due to pharmaceutical direct-to-consumer ads. We've also got a public health crisis of over-medicalizing every condition in the United States. We have an over-treatment crisis. We've got both an over-treatment and under-treatment crisis. But by far, the over-medication crisis and pill-popping culture dominates the U.S. healthcare system. And so this reform, while it's not going to be a silver bullet for our healthcare system, is the most significant reform on pharmaceutical ads to date, and it will address in part these issues of an over-medicated pill-popping culture and high drug spend in the United States.
And there's a lot of people who are on health insurance, and they're praying to God, not just for their everyday health in general, but they're also praying, just hoping that day by day that they just remain as healthy as possible, because a lot of people who have health insurance, if something comes up and they have to actually use that health insurance, it could bankrupt them, even with their health insurance. Like 15 years ago or so, that was far from the case for most people. I mean, most people, compared to what we have right now, was just horrific, or amazing health insurance back then, horrific today. It's appalling, man. All right. Attorney General Pamela Bondi, I think this might be the last one. Parents of school-aged children should never be treated like criminals for speaking at school board meetings. No more. The Justice Department is restoring law and order and returning power to the people we serve. I am directing the FBI and our Civil Rights Division and all our U.S. All of our U.S. attorneys to uphold constitutional rights and parental authority in America's education system. This DOJ stands with America's parents. And let's see what this letter shows here. Memorandum for the Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights, the Director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the Director of Executive Office for United States Attorneys, and all United States attorneys, who it's addressed to, Office of the Attorney General, of course. And from the Attorney General, and the subject is upholding constitutional rights and parental authority in America's education system. In the United States of America, parents have the right and the responsibility to speak out in defense of their children. The Department of Justice remains steadfast in its obligation to protect the constitutional liberties of every American, especially when those rights are exercised in the defense of family, faith, and the future of our nation. Recent years have seen a disturbing trend in which state and local authorities have brought radical gender and racial ideology into our public schools while suppressing dissenting viewpoints. Worse still, they have ignored, dismissed, and even retaliated against concerned parents who speak out against these morally and factually bankrupt ideologies and in defense of their own children. The First Amendment guarantees the right of every citizen to speak freely, assemble peaceably, and petition the government for redress of grievances, including at public school board meetings. These rights do not yield to political trends or bureaucratic convenience. While schools must maintain order, such authority cannot be used as a pretext to silence dissent or punish parents for expressing their views. Furthermore, parents have a fundamental right to direct the moral and religious education of their children. Schools receiving public funds must ensure compliance with applicable federal protections, including mechanisms for parents to exempt their children from instruction that conflicts with the family's sincerely held religious beliefs, such as content related to sexuality and gender ideology. As the Supreme Court recognized in Mahmoud versus Taylor, compelled exposure to such materials over parental objections may violate federal protections. Any attempt to burden these rights will face scrutiny and action from the Department of Justice. Equally troubling is the rise in abusive content by government actors against parents exercising their constitutional freedom. Let me be clear. When school board members, administrators, and other government officials threaten law-abiding parents, they can and will be held accountable. Conspiring to violate constitutional rights is a crime under federal law. And moving on to the last little bit here. Accordingly, I am directing the Civil Rights Division to be alert to violations of parental rights and First Amendment liberties in educational settings. I'm also directing U.S. attorneys to work with federal, state, and local partners to identify and respond to credible threats against parents and violations of their federal rights. We are restoring the rule of law and returning the federal government to the people it serves. This department stands with America's parents. So that's definitely a white pill moment if you're a parent with school-aged children these days. Let's hope that that stands true and strong. So it looks like, yeah, these are the last that I've got. So that's basically all I got since I already read that. But just double checking my notes and just making sure I've got everything. Yep, it looks like that's it. I was just double checking. Sometimes I'd have something saved on Grok or in my profile somewhere, but looks like that's going to be it. So for the rest of the night, anyway, if you enjoyed the video, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It would really mean a lot to me, and I'll drop a new show every evening covering the swamp and everyone living in it, the politicians, bureaucrats, agencies, and everything else. And I also post daily episodes over on X, so you can head over there and leave a comment over there if you choose to do so. And I hope you have the best rest of your night that you possibly can. You know, hug your wife, your husband, your children. God bless the United States of America. God bless Charlie Kirk, and God bless his family.